guys, I'm Dan.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Bob.
And today we're looking at Endless Winter Paleoamericans by Fantasia Games. This is a 1 to 4 player game. It says about 1 to 2 hours. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a safe bet
Once the
for
setup's
most games. Sure. So yeah, we're going to be talking to you about the basics of how to play, not in depth one. Then we'll give kind of a component breakdown, our final thoughts, and then a score. 1 to 10, we'll go into that later. But for now, Bob, what are the basics of how someone would play Endless Winter?
Okay, well, this is kind of like a worker placement pseudo deck builder set in the snow. That's why it's cold in here. What you're going to be doing is on your turn, you're going to get a chance to play the culture cards that you have in your hand. The culture cards are going to be the ones that have the little leather thing on there, and there are Era 1 and Era 2 cards that will come out later on as you play. The first one you play is going to be free. Any additional ones you want to play during that turn are going to cost you a discard card in order to play them. After you've played your culture card, you're going to get to place one of your 3 figures that you have onto one of the workspaces and start taking some actions. So you can use your regular little workers, or you do have a chief. Your chief has a asymmetrical ability that says if you use them in the proper location, you get a bonus, right? And there's one for each of the different locations, like the jewelry guy, the mountain guy, or the hunter, and they kind of act accordingly. So say you place your worker out here. There's these 4 basic spaces. You place it on the top, and you can do the top series of actions as many times as you want, as long as you're able to pay the resources to do it. So like this top one up here, you can pay 3 labor, which is what this is, to draw culture cards from down there. So for every 3 labor from cards that you want to play out of your hand, you can continue to draw those cards into your hand. After you do that, you will, oops, that's not the right one. That's the turn marker. After you do that, you'll slide down to the next action, where it'll allow you to take another action, but only once. And this one here is going to be to pay tools and food according to whatever you're at on your Sacred Stone area down here. And that will allow you to choose a Sacred Stone from either Era 1 or Era 2 if you're there, and place that into your player board. And then you gain the appropriate bonus that's listed underneath. Then the first person to place a figure on any of these spots is going to occupy the bottom area, which is like a little circle, which is going to get you like a bonus thing, bonus type of action. Like this guy's going to give you an extra tool and food. This one over here is going to let you place an extra, I always get the word wrong. Those are camps, the extra camp and move it. This guy will get you an extra animal. And this guy is going to let you move up the idle track and then bury some of your cards, which will be worth points at the end of the game. And then after that, other people can still go to these actions because they're never actually fully occupied. You can still do these 2 actions, and then you just kind of go down to the bottom spot underneath there. So they're never only fully blocked. The only part that becomes blocked is that bottom action there. After you've played your cards, you'll discard all the cards that you have in your play area into your discard pile. And then the next person is going to go. If it's the third phase, your third time you place one, you're going to prepare for the Eclipse phase, which will be upcoming after everybody takes their third and final worker placement turn. During the Eclipse phase, you're going to take cards from your hand and place them face down into a little pile. And then once everybody is done, and this guy moves to the Eclipse phase here, you're then going to reveal those. And each card will have labor on them, and that whoever has the highest labor is going to get to move into the first place, and that'll be determined in the player order by the labor count. And if you have any Eclipse icons on the bottom of the cards you put down, those will trigger, and you'll get to gain those abilities. Any cards that you don't put down, you get to keep, which is kind of nice. And also during the Eclipse phase, you get to do a bunch of scoring, like your Sacred Stones are going to trigger. Any of these monoliths, which we'll kind of go over in a minute, will trigger abilities underneath them, and these villages. Those are going to trigger, and then you'll get to draw back up to, or you'll draw 5 more cards. So it's not really a hand limit. So if you keep cards in your hand, that's fine. You'll get to draw 5 cards each time. So that's kind of cool. You can have like a lot of cards in your hand for a big turn if you really wanted to. As far as these megaliths, there are a few ways to get them out there. There are some culture cards that will do that. There are icons on the board. Anywhere you see it looks like a big Stonehenge type of thing. Yes, by getting first place is the easiest way. Spend the most labor. You get to put one out. You'll start here with these neutral ones. And when you place them out on the megalith board, you're going to gain what you cover. So if you cover a megalith, you're going to get to build another megalith. And it has to be placed orthogonal to one that's already on the board. It doesn't have to be one of your own, but it does have to be orthogonal to something. And you'll get to keep building out and gaining the resources that you cover as you continue to build them. One of the other neat things is once there are 4 of them out on the board, another way to score points is to build one across 4 of them, like that. And that is going to earn points based on 2 points for each one of your own you put it on top of, and you'll get 1 point for putting it on top of somebody else's, and the other player will get a point. But sometimes it's okay because, hopefully you're getting more than they're getting out of that.
Sure. 2 quick interjections
Sure.
is that while it's counterintuitive because of the player color that we picked, everyone has the 2 neutral ones, which are the green ones there. So everyone has 2 green ones, and you always have to place your green ones first, and the green ones will have to be placed in the 4 corners, right? Then once the 4 corners are filled up and all that's done, then you can place yours adjacent to anyone's on the board. So you just have to start in a corner, and basically that is to allow, since you can place yours next to anyone, any other megalith tile, that is to allow people to start skipping around the board. You have to allow people to jump to another corner in order to start building yourself. But yeah, so the gray ones are actually his player color, and the green ones are the
Green,
neutral
gray.
ones.
Same.
Yeah, probably should have chose a better color.
That'd be nice. I was like, oh, they're different. But yeah, one of the other big things you're going to be doing is when you take this mountain action here. I always get those messed up. You're gonna get to place these camps out on the board, and when you place camp out,
I got it. Yeah.
Thank you. They all have to be placed in the base camp area, and then certain people that you get to tribesmen that you get to recruit, plus the actions on the board, are going to allow you to start moving them out and spreading them out around the board. Once you have 3 kind of Catan style in an area there, you will be able to remove them from the board and place one of these little villages on there in the center. They cannot be placed on the starting base camp area, so you do have to move out away from there. Now there's just a little bit of a area majority type of thing going on here. So during the Eclipse phase, whoever controls each tile is going to gain the bonus that is shown on that tile. Each of the little camps are going to be worth 1 influence, and then if you've got a village on there, it's going to be worth 2 influence. So you're just going to go through each tile, tally up the influence on there. Whoever has the most is going to gain the reward. There's a couple other things you can do. Like if you don't want to take any of these actions out here, you have a rest action that you can take, which is going to let you draw an extra card. It lets you tip an animal, which tipping animals is kind of a big thing too. In the hunting area, it allows you to tip animals also. But there's a little set collection if that happens with these guys. And as long as they're not tipped, they're going to be worth a bunch of points. But when you tip them, you get a reward from them for that one-time thing. But then typically they don't score points for you at the end of the game unless you get one of these sacred stones that says that even your tipped animals are going to be worth points at the end. And just a heads up, so you can only collect up to 4. If you've got like 6 of the same one, you can take them, but it's not worth any more points. But you can always eat the extra. So it's something to do with them.
And then idle board.
And then there's the idle board. So when you see the little idle icon, which is like the 3rd one down here, you get to choose one of those guys to move up. Moving up the one on the farthest end over there is going to get you some victory points when you move past the little thing. Plus, whoever is up the highest is going to earn more points for the cards that they've got. Is it entombed?
Buried.
Buried. So it is buried. Okay. So the more cards you buried, up to 7, they'll be you get more points for doing that.
And also, if you top the track and you keep moving up, you just bury
more cards
every single time. So it's kind of feeding itself.
Yep. On the other side of that, because everybody has 2 little idle trackers, it's basically going to make your resources at the end of the game worth more points. Plus, as you continue to move up there are some side bonuses like burying cards, adding people to your discard or to your hand. And then once you get all the way to the top, you just get to up your tools and your food every time there. So
the last thing we can show off, I guess, even though this is during setup, so whoops, is there's a reason that Bob started with the resources that he started with.
Oh, yes.
So there's actually 2 cards over there that are setup cards, and one kind of tells you starting resources, and one tells you your starting hand.
Yep.
Which is just very interesting. I like how that works, and it's also a balancing mechanic built into that, to where when we were first learning the game, actually, they had the rule book and I had a digital rule book on my phone, and it was actually an older version, and it would say things like randomly choose first player, first player gets these resources, blah, blah, blah. But then in the newer rule book, which I did find the digital version of, it actually goes off of this system, which is interesting. So basically you hand out these cards and you see this is the first player card. So it just tells you what they get, and there's nothing here. But like on the second player card, there would be a resource listed here as well saying take that. And stuff. So it's just a very consolidated, clean way of doing that.
And then it has the turn structure on the back. So you just flip them all upside down, hand them out, and that gets your starting starting player order.
Yeah, so everybody's starting hand is also slightly different as well. We all have a starting cards, but then you're going to put 2 random cards into your starting hand.
Yeah, and then like this other starting card that you get is going to show you like, oh, start with some extra tools, start with, you know, one of each of these animals, and then one of this like random tribesmen that it's going to offer you there.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to add, just to kind of tidy up what you can do on the worker placement board, we talked about getting the culture cards. We talked about the mountain action of getting these out on the board.
Yep.
The animal track on the far right is another big way to score points as well. That's the board on the top of the main board. So that essentially allows you to reveal more of those cards and also draft those animal cards, which have kind of dual purpose. You can butcher them or slaughter them, and you can get goods from them like more food, more tomahawks. Also, they're a set collecting mechanic, so they're an in-game scoring set collecting option that you have. The other one we didn't go into is the one that has the guy holding the sword there. That's how you get these tribe cards, and there's 5 different tribe cards, all of them kind of catered towards one of those particular worker placement locations. All of those cards are the same, but by taking your worker to one of those 4 different locations, they give you a bonus benefit. And then at the bottom of that same action is you've got the option to take those cards, put them in your discard, and also bury cards that we talked about. So again, just kind of the 4 sort of thematic worker placement spots that you have to build your deck and score points.
Yeah, so that is a little bit more than a basic breakdown of how to play. We went over most things. So now we're going to go into a quick component breakdown, what we think about that. Okay, let's talk about components. I mean, first of all, I don't think there's really too much complaints. There are really good components here, but overall, let's just talk about the basics, right? So, Mike, you like to go in depth on the cards. What did you think about card quality and everything here, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got a resin finish on it. I like this artist, the Miko. He's done all the art for all the West Kingdom games and the Wayfarer North Sea games.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. The Shem Phillips
really,
games.
Yes, all those. Yeah, great art. I mean, really neat art. I actually like this art better than the West Kingdom games because I think what they did with the Paleolithic people here, I think looks really good.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. The art is excellent. And of course, yeah, I mean, the components, all the plastic stuff we can get into. But just, I mean, the art that you're going to get regardless which version of this game you have is fantastic.
Yeah, Bob, you had some warping issues, right?
I did. Like, you can kind of see, like, this is warping a little bit. The cards are slightly warped a little bit. Not terribly, not as terrible as some games have been, but there is a slight warping.
It did not impact our gameplay,
no.
But that is always sad when you get a nice, expensive game in and there was just some warping. I mean, you know, they can only do so much about it, but if you are receiving your copy, we're just saying maybe be ready to have a little bit of warping going on. This game does have a lot of moving pieces. I would want to play this on a playmat. Like literally the whole board.
They do have them.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice
Bob's table basically is completely covered by a playmat. I know some other people that do that. And you have this map that gets bumped a lot. We have these things get bumped constantly now. It's very obvious how they go back together. So even if this piece was over here, we would understand what was going on there.
Right. But for the record, though, there is a bunch of different configurations.
Yes,
that you can set
that's
up
true.
into.
It says depending on your player count to pick a random configuration. This
listed.
is just the one we played with, so we set it up again. But there's a bunch of crazy ones that look really cool. I really like one that kind of looks like a bird. Like there's like 2 up and then it's like 2 wings.
Yeah.
I really like the look of that one. But obviously that's going to completely change how you can branch out. Right. But yeah, I mean, all the tiles in the game are great. All of these things are really nice. A good model quality and everything going on here. I have a slight issue. This isn't really components, I guess, but it kind of is. I have a slight issue. I could not wrap my mind around, and I was by far the most awake when we played this game, and I just could not wrap my mind around the fact that any worker can cover that space at the bottom. Because like it just seems like the chief mechanic is incredibly weak and tacked on. Like it's just like especially so this side we get 2 food. On the other side of the chiefs they get you 1 axe, right? And axes are very difficult to come by, but it's like so the whole point, the entire point of the chief is if you put the chief on this one spot, you get an axe.
You get a bonus. Yeah.
Ooh. but so not only does that just feel really weak to me, but then the thing that really got me, and you know, we were playing it like 11 at night and everything, but like the first actions that you can see on the board there, the white actions are rectangular, and then the yellow actions, the one-time actions, are rectangular, and then that bonus one is circular, and the chief is the only piece with a circular base in the game.
It's fair.
And that my mind just couldn't understand. Like, it just seemed like that'd be a cool bonus for the chief to be like, well, if you put your chief there, he locks up that spot so that other people can't take it. Ooh, that's cool. But no, just any worker can lock that up.
Yeah,
I
first
just
one there.
I just wish that wasn't a circle, because that throws me off.
I can see how that can make it a little somewhat like counterintuitive.
Sure, just a little bit of graphical things going on there. We also cannot figure out. Hi, welcome to our review where we're reviewing a game, and we cannot figure out why this has two sides. They're identical, except that this one is centered better, and this one has a dark Firebird on it. We just I don't even see it mentioned in the rule book, but I will say again, I don't actually have the rule book. I just kind of was skimming through it. But I didn't even see a part where it said randomly pick a side. It was just like put out the idle board. So I don't know. There's just some weird stuff like that, but overall, yes, these miniatures are fantastic, which Bob, as always, goes crazy with Kickstarter, so this is not a retail edition, I'm sure. Do you know what all you got in this edition?
Well, I mean, I know. So, like, I kept all the books out here, right? So I have the ancestors, the rivers and rafts, the cave paintings, which we didn't do. There's like little dry erase boards and stuff like that for that one, and then another big book for the solo mode, which we haven't yet to dive into.
And all that stuff is separate because I actually
Correct.
saw
They're
it
all
on the.
available in separate boxes and stuff like that. But that was the nice thing about this version, like the insert and everything that came with, is amazing, and it fits everything all inside the insert, like super nice, all organized. Every player gets its own little player tray.
Like that a lot.
Yeah, all their bits fit in there. Their cards fit. Your little villages, and then your megaliths. I almost said monoliths. And then a nice little lid goes on top, and it stacks right inside the box.
Very nice.
Super nice.
So basically, one of the things you're saying here is if you get the retail edition, your box will not be this big.
That's a great question.
Yeah, well,
I'm pretty sure
it's not fitting any of the expansions in, so
no,
it
it
must
is.
not be.
It is a smaller box.
Is it a smaller box?
It's a smaller box and separate boxes for all the expansions.
Right. Okay.
Yep. This version comes with screen printed meeples, screen printed camps.
Yep.
Also, all of the chiefs are washed and they look really
nice.
good.
Can you we'll probably have some photos, but can you hold one of those pieces, just any of them, up to that camera for a bit?
We'll get some close-up photos of those guys.
Just want to show off that wash for a second in the video, but yeah, we'll get some photos for you guys. But yeah, so I mean, again, overall, I think we can all say good components here.
Absolutely.
The insert's amazing. The rulebook seemed pretty good. Again, once I actually got the correct one, and I was I was helping set up off of that, it was very, like, the amount of times we had a rule question and I found it like instantly. I just kind of scrolled and I was like, it says to do this, right? It was very easy, which tells me that it is in a good order, an intuitive order. That is like #1 for rule books for me, is the order of which they teach things, which is why in a recent video I complimented Andrew's teaching, because I think Andrew is really good at teaching games like without a rule book in an order that is intuitive.
That makes sense.
Right? So like sometimes you'll, like, if you explain the idle board and then the megalith board, a person might understand that less than the megalith board than the idle board. Like, just knowing the order of which a human brain will intuitively catch on to things and add things is a skill. And I did feel like this rule book had that because it was so easy to find stuff. When I was looking for a rule, I would intuitively go to a certain section, I would intuitively read for a little bit, and there it was. And so that is always a huge positive for me when it comes to the rule books. But yeah, I think that's mainly it for components. Obviously, all the pieces, you know, the score marker here, the first player marker.
You almost grabbed them, but I love those megalith tiles. Those
these
are
are
nice
super
little
nice.
plastic.
Yep.
Yeah, those feel good.
Yeah, they look like
dual layer board there.
They look like they're gonna feel like a clay.
Dual layer player board,
which is super nice, and like they fit everything in here really well. Like these, the villages sit around, they don't slide around. And then when you pull them out, it's got the card underneath there that shows you that, yes, during the Eclipse phase, you get to draw an extra card.
Yep, and there's also all the indents around the player board. Shows you your deck, your discard, your animals down there. And actually, Bob, can you throw a card down in the burial sections there?
I'm going to bury this card right here.
Oh, my goodness, look at that. Everything's perfectly cut out and nice. So, yeah, that's the breakdown of the components. You guys can see everything. So now we're going to kind of have an open discussion on our final thoughts. Okay, guys, who wants to kind of kick in here? Bob, it's your game. You just want to kind of start us off here?
Sure, yeah. Like, I enjoyed it. There's a lot going on. I think it definitely needs more playthroughs. It'd be interesting to see what the expansions can add in. But it's got, like, a lot of things that it's trying to do, right? It has, like, the board over here where you're putting on your camps and doing area majority and trying to control the zone, so you get those bonuses. You've got the hand management where you're trying to, do I use my character to get a couple of these extra bonus actions? Do I save them for the Eclipse phase? You know, which of these sacred stones do I want to get? I'm only allowed 3 of them, so I want to make sure I get ones that are going to count towards what I do. Like, oh, I've already got 2 matching animals, and there's some over there, so I think I should probably go hunt. Like, I think like the decisions you make are fun. I enjoyed them. Yes, the chief abilities do feel minimal. Right, like there's not a lot of difference between your chief and the other 2 characters. There could have been a little bit more with that, I feel. And there's the expansions do come with a bunch of other people that you can add to the your little starting lineup here, so you're not always dealing with the same types of tribesmen. You can mix those up, so those will be interesting to try out. I like how you have that passage of time where after the first 2 eclipses, you go to that second era, and like the cards become more powerful. The sacred stones are stronger. The culture cards that come out are stronger. We did play slightly wrong with the culture cards. We were playing a bunch of them without discarding. We realized that a little bit late to enact that rule, but I don't think it really felt super unbalanced playing that way.
I'm sure it would have changed things because that's something that whoever had the most culture cards in their hand was benefiting from that the most. Sure. But I mean, who knows what it would have changed.
Sure. Either way, Andrew probably still would have won because he had played once before.
Yeah. That's true. It was very clear that experience helped in this game. I mean, we started round 1 and he was like 40 points ahead of us.
Yeah, he was way.
Now, we did have a really good comeback, especially Mike. Mike was like 60 points behind at one point.
He was going end game.
Yeah, and his end game paid off. Like we were not that far off from points. I want to say it was like a 15-point spread or something, maybe slightly more.
He was a little bit more than that, but the top 3 were.
But
I did not plan out my stones very well.
Your sacred stones?
I was not well equipped to score off of those very well.
Well, we also just got really unlucky that maybe lucky, but literally all but one of our tier 2 sacred stones were eaten animals.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And you can see this game. There's
only
only 2. Right?
And I was trying to hang on to animals because I was working a totally different strategy. So.
Right, and that's what I appreciate too. There are the different strategies, right? Like I was trying to push the megalith board a lot.
Yep.
Like at first I was trying to explore. Then as soon as like Andrew came out and he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make 4 of these and move them all out and make a village in the first turn." We're like,
yeah, basically.
Okay, well I'm not doing that.
Andrew with the most experience showed us how important this board was.
Yeah, turn 1. Yeah.
And we were like, "Oh, okay,
okay,
we're gonna do that."
Else. So I put a lot of like into this and really kind of spread out along there. And I made some poor decisions as far as what I was doing, and I definitely think my second play would be a lot more well informed. But no, I mean, I enjoyed it. I think that I would definitely want to try it again. If it continues to take like 3 hours, like it took us the other night,
sure.
I think there are probably other games I like to do. But if like getting to know it better, not needing the rule book to get going and having it set up, because the setup is a lot. I think that if you can get it down to like an hour and a half, I would definitely get this to the table a lot more often.
Sure.
So,
I want to point out too before we continue, there are 2 variants or modules. There's the word I'm looking for. There's 2 modules, I guess, that are included in this core box that you can throw in because they're listed in the rule book. Like one of them is they're just rest tiles. The first person to rest every turn takes a rest tile and they get a bonus. It's super beautiful. I love that kind of stuff. And also, like Andrew was talking about when we were playing, I didn't rest at all my first time playing. Resting is stupid. Meanwhile, I rest like 2 or 3 times our game, and it kicked butt.
Helpful.
when I did
the
it.
extra card, being able to tip an animal.
Well, yeah, I had a tip animal strategy too, so that was kicking in for that. And then also, I was first place.
Yeah,
most
it gives you labor when you
because
do
it gives you extra labor.
Yeah.
So
and that gives you megaliths, which is good.
Right. So But then getting an extra bonus on top of that just for being the first person to rest every round is really going to make people think about, like, man, do I want to just rest with this last worker? And then the other one I didn't read too in depth, but it has to do with a new system for these. What are these called? Tundra tiles or
glaciers.
Arctic. Glacier tiles. Thank you. It has a new system with that. But they seem like, like Taverns of Tiefenthal. They seem like little
things you can add in.
You can just add this in, and it just makes some stuff a little more interesting.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
so I like that idea. For our first game, the reason I brought this up is because for our first game, you're good, man. For our first game, we didn't play with either of those. We played a very basic, straight game. Most of us went in without too much like knowledge as to how to play. Like, it was really a learning game and stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, so some of the things that I really liked, I liked the hierarchy worker placement system where you put a guy at the top. You can do that one thing as many times as you want. If you have the resources, you can infinitely use that ability. Then your guy slides down, and then you got a one-time ability. And then if you're the first person there, you also get that benefit at the bottom. I like that. I haven't seen that before. So that's actually new to me from any game that I have seen. So I like the hierarchy of worker placement going on there. I also like this megalith board. What's funny is I think we actually...
That is it's an expansion tile.
Side.
It's not a side, it's a new tile, but whatever.
Okay, so anyway...
Ignore these icons.
Yeah, the megalith thing,
you can see on the back.
I just thought it was funny. Oh, it's the same thing we had up last time. But that megalith board is interesting, too, because there's a lot of player interaction with that. I think you get more interaction with that megalith board than anywhere else in the game. So I think it's interesting to kind of watch and see what other people are doing. Plus, you get those kind of instantaneous benefits just from placing tiles there, and I like that sort of puzzle.
That was super helpful.
This part, I like how it helps with the Eclipse scoring, because I found it more difficult to maximize the Eclipse part of the game, because the deck building aspect of this game is what is lacking, in my opinion. The worker placement feels strong. I think this building aspect and using this to get Eclipse actions is strong, but I think the deck building is a bit lacking. Like, you've got ways to get cards, but most of the ways they're gonna, like, the culture cards felt stronger because you use them before you even use the rest of your cards. So they're like this extra really powerful benefit to start your turn with. Then you're using your tribal cards to kind of assist with your worker placement. And I found myself using that more than trying to save them for the Eclipse turn. And unlike, say, for example, and this game is going to get compared to Dune Imperium a lot because it has worker placement and deck building. But in Dune Imperium, your reveal turns are very powerful. Like, you've got 2, later maybe 3 workers, so you can only use 2 or 3 of your cards. You're always going to have at least 2 or 3 cards left over for your reveal turn. Whereas this, I found myself, I didn't want to keep my cards for the Eclipse turn. I wanted to use them to strengthen my worker placement actions. And maybe that wasn't the right way to use them, or maybe I didn't have the right Eclipse cards. But, when you draw a hand and you've got 3 worker placement spots and your hand is for that entire round, and then there's 4 rounds. So you're only drawing 4 hands for the entire game. So again, to compare it to another worker placement deck building game, Lost Ruins of Arnak, which only has 5 rounds, at least in that game, it allows you to put your cards at the bottom of your deck. Whereas this game, you're dumping so many of those tribal cards in your discard pile, you'll never see them. You'll never get to play those cards after even, say, the second round. I found it difficult to get those cards I had recruited into my hand and actually use them. So that's why I think the deck building in this game is a bit weaker than some of those other games this game will be compared to.
A quick interjection. There are quite a few spots that will add people directly to your hand, and I think that's also why it has you burying a lot of cards and a lot of ways to do that, because that'll thin out all your starter cards so you do draw your other ones more often.
I also just wanted to say... it was just kind of funny. I basically had the exact opposite experience as you. I agree that the deck building might be the weakest part of the game.
Yes.
But I also think that my strongest part of the game, like as in me as a player, was my Eclipse phases. My hands were incredibly powerful. I was playing 7 cards and just getting, I would end around, like my worker placement might be a little weak. I wasn't exactly sure what strategy I was doing. I was placing guys out, but then my Eclipse time would come and I'd be full on food, full on axes. I'd be ready for the next round. I was getting so much stuff on my Eclipse phases, and I just don't know. I don't find that to be a fault of the game, as well as that is just dependent on what strategy you take. Because there were times, yes, to where it was like, okay, like literally when we were playing, it was like, okay, Andrew has 1.5 labor in Eclipse. Okay, Bob has 3. I have 12. And Mike has 0. And it's just like, well, obviously it's possible then to save a bunch of cards for the Eclipse phase and stuff. Because again, I came in second, so it's not like I was like doing, terrible with, and just like, I don't know, I'll just do my Eclipse cards and see what happens, right? So it must be viable, but I don't know how it's viable. I don't know how I lucked into that strategy, right? But I will just say it is obviously doable. But with all that being said, I do agree that the deck building is weak. It did not. Yeah. I talked about before we started the review. I didn't even realize when we were playing it that it was deck building. It was like the next day I was at work and I was like thinking about the game and I was like, oh yeah, there's like a set pool of cards and you're like adding those cards into your hand and discard pile and then you're shuffling, and I'm like, that game's a deck builder, isn't it? Like,
yeah, and all of those tribal cards are exactly the same. Like there's only 5 different ones and that's it. There's nothing different in any of those tribal cards. So I don't know. I felt like those cards were
same, is what you're saying.
Yes. The piles are the same. Yeah. Correct. So there's
it's
5
like
different cards
where it's the same.
And multiple duplicates of that card. Not just
with the exception of the expansion, there are some replaces the piles. But I would definitely say though, so it's like 3 basic mechanics, right? You have your worker placement, you've got your area majority, and your deck building. And of the 3, the deck building is you feel it the least.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, honestly though, that's something that I'm going to go into once you're done. But this game, basically, they tried to force every mechanic in the world.
There's a lot of stuff tossed in.
There's set collection down there. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
The other thing I want to touch on, too, is okay, the track board. And you've got 2 separate tracks. I really like it if you're going to do tracks. I want every spot on the track to feel meaningful. Instead, I got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots before this track changes anything.
It's 5 technically. You don't start at that bottom spot.
You start in this one. Okay, so you have five track movements on this side before anything has changed. And what this is every card that you have buried is worth 2 points instead of 1.
That's just to gain 2 points immediately.
That is literally just 2 points after moving 5.
That's it.
But that side of the track is earning you towards the end game, which across the top of those 3 spaces, those are the points you're going to get for first, second, and third spot, depending on how many cards
Depending on how many cards you've buried right now in this setup, I mean, you're the only person there. But let's say you were there and no one else was there. You would also, on top of that, get
the 6, 10, or 15, depending on how many cards.
15 extra bonus points at the end of the game as well, which, again, I was at the top of both those tracks. That's where most of my points came from. But
it's just there's so many parts of the track that don't do anything. I would want more of the track to be useful. I don't know. There's lots of movement on the track where you gain nothing from it. So I didn't find myself, and obviously I didn't play as well as the other players did, but I didn't feel like I was being pushed to use the track because, I got 5 spots on this side before it even does anything for me. So I want my within the first couple times I'm moving on a track, I want it to do something. So
do something.
Yeah. I don't know. So that's where I'm at. Those are my final thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just start off by saying I like most of the things this game does. This game is a worker placement deck builder. That's something I've been wanting more of. Literally, it has blown my mind that if we go back 2 years ago in our videos, none existed.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, why don't they do this? That'd be an amazing mechanic. And now every single one that comes out, I'm just like, that's an amazing mechanic. And I'm so glad they keep coming out with them. But this is a worker placement deck building game with a bunch of mini games. Right, and I like all that stuff in games. I like the fact that I'm doing a worker place deck building, and then if I want, I will say I do think this is a game that you kind of need to hyper focus. And if you hyper focus, you will see how good things are. But if you don't, they're not going to feel good. Again, I will say, Mike did not like that idle board. Right now, he was just talking about that. You know what Mike didn't do? The idle board. I did the idle board. I thought that was fantastic. I really liked the way that played. To where this I didn't really do that much. I think it's a cool mechanic, but Andrew hardcore focused this. I guarantee you, after seeing what Andrew has talked about twice during the game, that he would say he really likes this type of area majority, and not just that, but like kind of manipulating your pieces and trying to fit around. And not just that, but like there were some times where, because if you tie, it's a shared tie. So there are some times where like, you know, oh, well, I have this here. Well, I just need to like get 2 houses there, right? And just like tie so that I can get the thing too, kind of thing, and not worry about building the building, right? The megalith board. Yeah, I mean, if you don't build on that, or if you just get your starting ones, you get some food, that's nice. But then if you start actually branching out, there are insanely powerful things on there. And then you start building on top of people and just getting 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, or, you know, or, well, I guess it would be, yeah, you could get 5, but you know, like that's like the average, I feel, is like 4, you know, points or something like that on there every time you stack up. And so it's a game that's going to make you feel like you need to focus. And I think you're going to get more enjoyment out of the strategy you focus on, for sure. If you try to do everything, I think that's going to fall apart a little bit. You can do everything, but like
fall short on it.
Right. If I want to be on the top of both those tracks, I'm not going to have 7 buildings over here. I know I can only have 3, but you know, I'm not going to have a bunch, or I'm not going to be all over that, right? Like I'm going to have some, of course, because you know, you need to jump on those mechanics a little bit. And also you kind of just want to build out in, well, you kind of just want to build out in smart locations over there, because you want people to build on top of you. Because if you're not going to build on top of people over there, you want them to build on top of you, because you get points when people build on top of you as well. So there's a lot of manipulation of the mini games that are going on here. And I really like that. I liked the most of the abilities, you know, like I liked getting the animals. I liked getting the huts. I liked getting the culture cards and everything. Like most of the stuff felt good. Getting a sacred stone on your board and then having a every round scoring mechanic that was kicking in, even if it was only giving me 5 points a round, that felt really good. Like, you know, okay, Eclipse round is up, you know, 1 point for every tile I have on the megalith board, right? Boom. You know, like that's a really nice feeling. I like pretty much everything this game did, and it completely fell flat for me. I did not enjoy this game. And I don't know what it was. This is kind of like a smartphone for me, to where I look at the game and I'm like, everything about that game is good.
It's even snow themed.
Sure. I know that's genuinely a thing for me. I love winter themed, snow themed games. And I just, when I was done, I did not feel fulfilled at all, even though I genuinely think if I had taken one good action on my last round, because like I was talking to Bob about this while we were playing, my last round was nothing. There's 4 rounds in the game, and my 4th round was I built up towards a strategy that I forgot wasn't gonna happen because it was the last round of the game. It was something about my culture cards, I can't remember right now. And so basically my entire last round got me like 2 or 3 points off of culture cards, and I was like, wow, what a waste of a round. And like, so if I had played that last round just slightly differently, I feel like I could have gotten first, and I just wouldn't have cared. I did not feel tactical, strategic, fulfilled, meaningful. I didn't feel any of that when I got done playing this game, and I genuinely can't explain why. I would play it
2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. I stay up till 6.
Okay.
But like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I would play the game again. You know, there's a lot of replayability here. Different culture cards are going to come out. You can swap out the decks on those. The sacred tiles are going to be different. Your asymmetric chief doesn't matter. There's so much going on.
Well, I mean, all the
here.
expansions, right? Like,
Yeah.
we don't even know what the river guy does, or the cave paintings and all that.
Yeah, that's true. All the cave painting stuff. That sounds fascinating. But I don't know, guys. At the end of the day, I just I wouldn't say I was really looking forward to playing this game because I didn't know anything about it. But once we started playing it, set it up, started learning, and I was like, okay, there's worker placement here. I found out there was deck building the next day. There's, you know, mini games. I love mini games where you're kind of, you know, focusing on different things. I love winter themed games. That's just me. Like, you pick any video game, any board game. I want the winter one. I want the winter maps in Call of Duty. I want the winter side of the board when there's like a double sided.
There was something that we played, and then like we got done. You flipped over, like, you didn't tell me there was a winter side theme on the other side.
That's literally who I am. And at the end of the session, I was just sitting there like, I really should have liked that more than this, but I'm not sure I felt anything. And I wanted to say, because he brought it up, Andrew kind of feels the same way. I don't know if he'll say he was as disappointed as me, but Andrew did want to say he's played the most out of us now. And he wanted to say that he thoroughly, like, I'm trying to think of his words because we talked on the phone. He didn't text me. Bad idea, Andrew. I have no memory. But he basically said he really likes what's going on here. And to him, the game was meh. And that was like basically his thoughts. But anyway, I'm just gonna wind up repeating myself over and over again if I keep saying it. So that's kind of where I'm sitting right now on Endless Winter, unfortunately. Too bad Spencer couldn't be here, by the way. I think he really likes it. So there you go. But you got something else?
Nope.
We're gonna go into our final scoring now. So stay tuned for 2 seconds. Okay, Mike.
Yeah, so...
Well, really quick, do you want to explain how we do final scoring?
Yeah, I can do that. So we are all going to give a score from 1 to 10, including 0.5s. We add them together. We give you an average, and that is the board game rundown score that we use for Board Game Geek Discord, anywhere you want to know the rundown score.
That was a really good Dan impression.
My score for this, I have similar sentiments as you and Andrew. Like, I like what this game has to offer, but the sum of its parts doesn't leave me wanting. Like, I want to see what's in the expansions. I want to see what the modules add. But as far as like the core of the game, it's just okay. Like it doesn't, there's a lot of hype around this game right now, and it's got neat mechanisms. And hey, is this the new worker placement deck building game that's going to kill all the others? In my opinion, no. I would much rather play Dune Imperium or Arnak still over this, and it's not even that close for me. I would much rather play those games, and I'm going to keep mentioning them because it's the obvious comparison. Yeah, it fell a little flat for me. It has some neat things going on. I do want to play it again, so I do recommend it, but I'm not rushing out to buy it. So that puts it under an 8 and above a 7 for me. I'm giving it a 7.5. I could see it maybe going up a little bit after playing some of the expansions, but as far as just the base game, like, it's a decent experience. I suggest playing it, but I'm not like rushing out to buy it, and I'm not buying the hype at the moment.
Sure. I'm going to go to you, Bob.
Okay. I pretty much agree. Like I said, I did enjoy it. I had fun. If I had that amount of time and that number of people, is this the game that I would pick out? Probably not. I definitely want to try it again. I want to see what the expansions add, see if that like throws a whole new twist that I'm like, okay, that was a lot of fun. I want to do more of that. So I agree with Mike. 7.5 is where I'm going to fall. It's better than average. Not quite as good as some other ones. It's definitely worth checking out. I do like that I got the fancy one just because I like to look good while I'm playing it. So at least there's that. And the insert is amazing, and I'm a big fan of a good insert. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Sure. I guess I should put my opinion in the hat really quick because Mike keeps bringing it up. I actually didn't know until today when Mike and I were talking that it's getting compared to Dune and Arnak.
I wouldn't.
It makes sense why people are doing that. I also don't super see it. It has workplace and deck building, which is the main reason
That's
why.
it.
Those are the bosses of that right now, right?
That's why it's happening.
So it's not that they're being compared to those, or this is being compared to those, right? It's that people are trying to squeeze it in with that crowd. And I agree, it's nowhere near. Well, first of all, Dune Imperium is in like my top 5 games of all time.
Spoilers, we're doing the list
I know,
now.
right?
Check that out.
Yeah, check that out. Dune Imperium is amazing to me, and Arnak is good. I don't think it's as good as Imperium.
I love them both.
But this is not with those to me. I actually think it's kind of funny that you guys kind of talk the way you do and then go 7.5. That's like so high. Like it's 75 percentile.
So. Sure. I mean, like, I don't know. I guess if you like winter theme stuff, if you like these types of things, I think a 7.5 is where you go and you check it out.
Sure, and don't get me wrong. I live by the standing. I've always said that if I would recommend a game, I have to give it at least a 7. And so I have games on this channel that I don't like that rank kind of high because I would recommend it, you know? As a matter of fact, I make fun of on our show quite a bit because if you look at what averages mean, a 5 is not an average for this show. Our average is like 7.5.
I could rate a bunch of games way lower to make the average.
But also,
I just tend not to.
We tend to review games that we like. Like,
Exactly.
we want to play these games.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I don't want to rush out and play.
Right. We are very fortunate that we get to review games we like most of the time, and so our average is completely skewed, and I just think that's hilarious.
So now I'm on the edge of my seat for your score, Dan.
Well,
I think I know what it is.
Well, I'm going back and forth between 2 numbers here. First of all, I said that this is kind of a smartphone for me, like as in the feeling of like after I was done playing it and how I I look at Smartphone, I'm like, man, that's an amazing game that I don't think I ever want to play again, right? And I'm kind of similar with this, that I'm just like, there's a lot of good here, and the sum of its parts just do nothing for me. And I gave Smartphone a 6, I believe. So I'm right around there. Honestly, I kind of want to give it a 5.5. It is an above average game. It's not bad, but I didn't have fun while I was playing it, you know, like it kind of felt like a slog. I think I'm going to give it a 6 though. I don't know if it deserves going all the way down to a 5.5, a barely above average game. I don't know about that.
The winter thing gives that extra.
Yeah,
0.5
that's true. It always does. You're so lucky this wasn't called Endless Summer. I'm out. Or you'd be a 5.5 now.
That's a different era.
So you know, you guys take our ratings as you will, right? You guys aren't here for our ratings usually. You're here for our thoughts on the game, and then you can make your own rating depending on that. But if you want our opinions, I'm going to land on that. I just don't know if Endless Winter deserves the lowest rating I've ever given on this show. It's not a terrible game. I just didn't have fun, and that's very important when you're playing a board game. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna fall on a 6 for now. I want to try the expansions out, but like I've been sitting here thinking about it ever since we started playing. Okay, what did I think? What did I think? What did I think? And the more I thought about it, the lower and lower and lower my grade got. And like I said, I was sitting here today going, I think I might give this a 5.5, but I have played way worse and way more average games than this. This is okay. It's better than that.
With Dan's okay, that makes up 7.
Okay. And I still think, again,
So it's a recommend.
It's a recommend.
But barely. I think that's fair.
I think
sure.
that's fair.
I do think that averaged out to we would hesitantly recommend this game.
Now, let me ask you, now that we've got our rundown score, how does that score compare to what you thought it would score before you played it?
Well, again, Bob will have something else to say, right? But to me, I knew nothing about this. When we sat down to play it the other day, I didn't know it was a worker placement. I didn't know it was a deck builder. I knew nothing about this game except it was called Endless Winter Paleoamericans. It was delivering from Kickstarter. Spencer liked it. That's all I knew about the game. So to me, I had no prerequisite scores or anything going into it. And so I don't know. I had no bar to reach, I guess.
So I follow I follow a lot of what people say in these Facebook groups. I want to know, okay, here's this game coming out. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are getting it to the table. What are their thoughts on it? And so far, most of the thoughts have been like glowing, like, hey, this is a really good game, and man, this is the next one you really got to try. And it's been at the top of the hotness on Board Game Geek since it released, which isn't uncommon for a bigger Kickstarter. Once it starts fulfilling, it shoots up. But, you know, it's been like 1 or 2 on the hotness for at least a month now, and a lot of people are saying great things about it. And then I played it, and it fell a lot short of my expectation, is why I wanted to bring that up.
You call it an overhyped game? Is that what you're trying to say?
I could be overhyped, in my opinion. Yeah. I was expecting a lot more.
Yeah.
Similar for you then?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say.
Okay.
I mean, like I like the art. I knew there were dual-layer player boards.
Yeah.
Like I like these bits. They looked really neat, so I wanted to play with them.
Sure. And again, I just can't preface enough that I don't think it's a bad game. And with the expansions, I might really like it. But we only played base, not even the modules, and it just let me down a little bit. Yeah. So that is Endless Winter Paleoamericans by Fantasia Games, guys. What do you think? Let us know in the comment section if you've had a chance to play it yet, or if you were excited because you backed it and now you're hesitant to get at the table or something. I hope I didn't ruin the game for you or anything like
what
that.
What did Dan miss? Why didn't he have fun? Let him know.
Why am I so dumb?
Why is Dan so dumb?
But let us know in the comment section about what you guys think about our takeaways from this game, because I know at this point we're kind of the hot takes. You know, we're kind of the discrepancies in the code. So you know, maybe we're crazy. I don't know. Maybe we just played under the wrong circumstance. It didn't feel like it, but we'll see. So we want to thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. I'm Dan.
I used to be Mike.
Bob.
And this has been the Board Game Rundown. We'll see you guys next time.